Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Create Faster and Better Code with AI Tools. Today, we're super excited to be talking to y'all about all the great new AI-based developer tooling innovations we have for you at TDX this year. Like every Salesforce presentation, make sure that you're making all of your purchasing decisions based off of that publicly available information. And before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of you Salesforce developers and those of you on Salesforce Plus for giving us your feedback. Your feedback is truly what helps PMs like myself and my colleagues here make sure that we're prioritizing the things that you all want to see happen. So again, my name is Ananya Cha. I'm your Senior Product Manager for Agentforce for Developers, and I'm joined here by
Mayuresh Verma, Product Manager for ApexGuru.
Hey, and I'm John. I lead our ALM, Product Experience Developer Experience.
So you've got a good crew with you tonight. All right, so let's get started with meeting Benjamin. Benjamin is our Coral Cloud Senior Developer. He's a pro-code user, so he's already got his typical workflow, and he knows about our developer tooling ecosystem. His current tools that he's working with are, of course, Code Builder, our web-based IDE. And the great thing about him working with Code Builder is that he never has to go in and install any of those Salesforce extensions himself. Instead, he just gets to go ahead and get started with this fully set up environment within his browser. And it's great because it still allows him to follow that source-driven development approach that we know and love. Now, like every good developer, he's also very concerned about code quality. And so to help with that, he's recently been using Code Analyzer from right there inside of the IDE. So he's no longer waiting until any of his code hits those CI/CD workflows. He's actually scanning and analyzing his code for security, best practices, and performance from right there inside of Code Builder itself. So as I mentioned earlier, he's working with Coral Cloud. And Coral Cloud, like many of those other businesses out there, is really looking to see how they can leverage these new AI innovations to make their folks more productive than ever before. But what does that mean for Benjamin? For Benjamin, that means that he's got a lot of pressure on him. He has to make sure that he's learning how to work with these tools in a way that helps him deliver more effectively, efficiently, and still maintain the same standards that we know we want to include. Well, luckily, here at Salesforce, we have a ton of tools to help him get started. In today's presentation, you're going to hear all of us talk about these various tools you see on here, ranging from Agentforce for Developers, which again will help you from right there inside of your IDE, all the way to ApexGuru as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So Agentforce for Developers, for those of you who aren't familiar, is our AI-based developer tooling extension. This is something that's available to you inside of Code Builder today, and it's also there inside of VS Code. It's currently bundled with our Salesforce Extension Pack Expanded, and it'll soon be there with our core extension pack as well. The best thing, in my opinion, about Agentforce for Developers is the fact that it's GA today, and it's completely free. You don't have to install anything. You don't need any additional licenses or packages. So it's really easy for you to get started with it. Some of the key things that come with our new GA product are our Dev Assistant. With our Dev Assistant, you have the ability to have that natural language conversation inside of your IDE. You also have access to inline autocomplete. Inline autocomplete has been one of our most widely used features till date. Later on, you'll hear around how many lines of code we've seen accepted from just inline autocomplete itself, and it's ranging around 7 million so far. So believe me, there's a lot of people who've been working with it and have loved it. And of course, we have Apex Test Case Generation. This was launched last year, and we've seen tremendous success from folks using it as a launching point to get started. What I'm super excited to announce today is LWC Test Case Generation. This is something that folks wanted as a quick follow-up to our Apex test case generation capabilities. So now you can very easily go into your IDE and get started with generating test cases for your just unit tests as well. And another exciting announcement for today is currently in dev preview is LWC optimization. For a lot of us users out there, you have existing Lightning Web Components that you might want to optimize for certain capabilities. I will say we are just getting started with this feature, and so far we're looking specifically at accessibility, but this will be expanding in the future as well. It's in dev preview today, and we'll get a quick look of it very soon, but I do recommend y'all check it out yourselves and give us that feedback. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the Dev Assistant. The great thing about the Dev Assistant is it's really your one-stop shop from right there within your IDE. You can go into your IDE, click our little Agentforce icon, and then get started with natural language conversation. You can ask questions about your code base, you can ask it to explain code for you, and even add documentation for your existing Apex classes or JavaScript within your LWCs. Now, under the hood, we obviously have all of these great new features that have been around for a while, but not only are we focused on building the new capabilities I announced today, but we're still making sure that those features we released last year are getting better. We've been making improvements to inline autocomplete by really taking a look at where you all most expect to see those longer completions. We're also continuously undergoing extensive model training to really improve the Lightning Web Component support that we have in our Dev Assistant and within inline autocomplete as well. And last but not least, as we all know, any of your generations are really only as good as the context that they have access to. And so with that, we've continued to work on RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, for Apex, and we'll soon be expanding this to include LWC as well. Now, the big new announcement for today, I gave you all a teaser a little bit earlier, but the big new announcement for today is our Agents panel. This eventually is really going to become your control center for all of those different agents that focus on the targeted functionality within your IDE. Today, you can go there and access things like test case generation for Apex and LWC, and if you enable the developer preview, you get access to our optimization for Lightning Web Components as well. We're starting off with these 3 targeted features, but in the future, our goal is to really make this your hub for how you can get started with our own agents and maybe even building and testing your own in the future as well. So again, test case generation has been one of those things that we've seen a lot of great success from. It is currently GA for our Apex functionality, and it is actually GA for LWC as well, so we'll make that correction. But overall, definitely check out test case generation, and we'll actually get to see it in action. Now, quickly before we move into our demo, one of the things that makes Agentforce for Developers great is the fact that it's fully integrated into the tools that you know and love. So you don't need to go off and learn how to work with a new IDE or work with any new toolkit. Everything is happening for you inside of Code Builder or VS Code. Obviously, behind the scenes, we're also working with our secure custom LLMs. For us, we're really focused on leveraging our internal LLMs that we'll hear a little bit more about. And the last piece that I mentioned earlier is always around the context. So we've done a little bit work on improving the amount of context that we're sending in to augment any of the prompts that you all are submitting, but we're only going to continue to improve on this area in the future. So behind the scenes, for all of our functionality, we're using our internal models here at Salesforce. One of the great things about using these internal models is that we're able to have a really tight relationship with the teams that are really building these foundational models. So we're able to ensure that these models have been trained for the very specific customer complex use cases that you all have. And we're also able to ensure that as new capabilities come out within Apex, LWC, or any of our languages, we're able to incorporate that into our training data as well. So all in all, when working with our internal models, it really gives us an advantage to iterate faster, and it's great because all of your data and code stays secure within our Salesforce trust boundaries. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Agentforce for Developers is available to you across both Code Builder and VS Code. I see some phones going up, so I'll pause for a second. A few more phones going up, okay. Cool. So as I mentioned earlier, again, Agentforce for Developers is GA today. We have a number of these capabilities that are in GA and a lot more on our roadmap. And today our big new announcement is around LWC optimization. We have a few stats here that really demonstrate the value that our users have been able to see from this product so far. It's been around 2 years since our initial launch, and it's been really exciting to see the progress. Well, now let's go ahead and get started with a demo. We want to see how Benjamin really makes use of these different tools to keep him ready to go. So, as I mentioned earlier, today I am going to be working inside of Coral Clouds. Benjamin is very used to working inside of Code Builder, and today he's got his dev assistant open and ready to go. The first thing that we're going to do is take a look at one of those classes that I know has been around for a while, but I haven't looked at it very recently at all. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up my get check-in date class over here. I know that I need to work with this later on in my day today, but honestly, it takes forever for me to learn exactly what this class is doing. Well, now with the help of our /explain command, I can get a really helpful natural language explanation that helps me get a little bit more acquainted with this code without necessarily immediately needing to dive right in. So again, the dev assistant has a ton of great functionality, including /explain, /document, and others. But today, let's take a look now at our new agents panel. So for today's task, Benjamin really could be working with Apex, but we're going to take a look at our Lightning Web Component, and we're working with our new component, blog cards. So far, we haven't generated any tests for this component yet. So I'm going to go ahead and run our testing agent. Behind the scenes, this is running a series of checks via multiple LLM calls to really ensure that not only are we generating that test, but making sure that it's optimized for those best practices that we know and love. So we can go ahead and open that class up. You can see I had a skeleton of original test class in there that came with my create a Lightning Web Component command. And with the generation, it'll go ahead and actually try to fill out the rest of that class for me, and then even suggest new test methods that should replace what was there. So today I'm okay with that response, so I can go ahead and accept it. Now, I want to see if there's any scope for us to really optimize our existing component for accessibility. There is something very specific I have in mind today. I really essentially want to make sure that we're improving it for certain descriptions. As you can see for our accessibility agent, we're mainly focused on a subset of level A guidelines. We also have an inline to-dos agent. With that, you have the ability of filling out any existing to-dos you may have in your code. For today, we'll focus on this accessibility agent. Now, very similarly, behind the scenes, we're making a series of LLM calls to really ensure that we're incorporating those best practices. We're then refining the output from those earlier calls to really ensure that we're getting to the correct stage at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our JavaScript file. I had something really specific in mind. I mainly wanted to see if it could come up with a better title. So for now, it has gone ahead and done that. And as you can see, we have this interactive diff view. So as I expand it, I can take a look at what was removed or added. And in this case, it's gone ahead and just added a little bit more description to the title that I had in here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this functionality is currently in dev preview, and so it's only going to improve. So far, again, we've got a subset of those level A guidelines for accessibility, and we will be expanding that in the future and adding further agents like best practices as well. This is in dev preview, so we're actively looking for feedback, and I recommend y'all check it out today. Oh. And with that, we'll hand it over to Mayuresh to see what else Benjamin can do.
Thank you so much, Ananya. So, ApexGuru Insights. Imagine that you are driving or you're having a sports car and you want to take it for a long drive. But if your engine is not tuned, you might always risk the fact that it might break down or there is a high fuel consumption. Now just replace the engine of your sports car with Apex, and that's what ApexGuru helps in. From a Benjamin's point of view, he is realizing what are the challenges that scaling Apex brings along. Performance bottlenecks. As the load increases, as the scaling increases, there are performance bottlenecks that happens. There is inefficient code, a lot of unused code or dead code that should be taken care of. Benjamin is always at a risk. He's under pressure of the delayed go live from his customers and reactive troubleshooting. The whole challenge, this entire scenario, depends right now on troubleshooting from a reactive perspective. The change should happen and become more proactive. Why do developers struggle to write Apex code? Now imagine complex customization. I always like this particular analogy that complex customization is just like having a pizza with multiple toppings. It sounds great, but until everything starts falling apart. Keeping up with best practices. These are just like your fashion trends. The moment you realize that you are on top of the game, something new comes up. I'm pretty sure everyone or most of you would have written emails with some typos. You don't realize it until and unless you hit the send button. And that's what are unintentional anti-patterns. And runtime issues. These are just like your unwelcome guests at some maybe house party, always at the worst possible time. But what is Benjamin equipped with at this point of time? What are the tools that he can use? There are code editors and IDEs. They're great at writing tools, generating code, but they lack performance insights. Is your code performant? Will your code scale or not? That is missing. There are debugging and logs. There are performance profilers. Both are reactive. They don't help you identify the root cause that is creating that particular issue, that is creating that particular problem for the code. Some of the Apex performance pitfalls or issues are just like sockle in loop code. The first example, just try to think of going to a grocery market and you have a list of 10 items. You visit the grocery market every time to bring one item each, whereas you can just go to the grocery market and get everything in one shot itself. That's what sockle in loop code or this example signifies. It's highly expensive, executed a million of times, and is completely or highly non-performant. It doesn't scale. Similarly, get global describe. It's just like you need one phone number, but you are asking the org to search or go through the entire phone book. That's what get global describe highlights over here, highly expensive. That's where ApexGuru comes into the picture. Right now, ApexGuru is GA for unlimited edition and signature customers. We are also going to go GA for enterprise edition customers by the end of the year. What ApexGuru helps in? The GenAI tool helps in scanning the code, giving you the recommendation, identifying the anti-patterns in your code base. But the key value proposition over here is the runtime analysis. Those sections of your code that have been called multiple times, it highlights that. It categorizes it as critical, major, and minor, signifying the impact of each code line, which is an anti-pattern, and why should you resolve it. ApexGuru right now has 4 features. It gives code recommendations. It highlights the so-called DML analysis, those that are highly DB-centric or very expensive on the database layer. It also identifies those expensive methods that are occupying more than 5% of your CPU time. In addition to that, it also highlights those unused classes and methods that are not called, unused in your production environment. That helps in reducing the tech debt or dead code for your org. We understand ApexGuru right now is available in full copy and full copy sandbox and production environment. We are also working with the code analyzer team to get it to the developers. So this particular feature, which is code analyzer integration with ApexGuru, is right now in beta stage at this point of time. Next release, it will go GA. Our whole goal is to equip you all the developers, to get the anti-patterns much before it hits the full copy sandbox or production environment, so that you are well prepared from a performance scalability perspective. But how does ApexGuru detect the anti-patterns? So ApexGuru scans the Apex code in a read-only mode, feeds it into the LLM, the XGen model that Ananya highlighted about, identifies the anti-patterns as well as the recommendation of it, much more easier for you to leverage it. What differentiates it right now is the runtime execution logs. The anti-patterns or the code base identifies the runtime analysis of the code and then prioritizes it basis the criticality of your usage. Makes it much more easier for you to solve the anti-patterns. And that's how ApexGuru delivers the results. A quick demo. Right, so within the setup menu, you can find ApexGuru. Just search for it. And once you click on ApexGuru Insights, you'll be able to find code recommendations. Within code recommendations, if you recollect, runtime execution logs or runtime profiling information is what I was highlighting. That comes over here. Critical, major, minor. Now, from a developer perspective, it is very important, or it becomes a priority for you. It helps you identify the priority, that you solve these critical ones before. It identifies the recommendation, the bad code, the Apex class, the entry point, and the recommended code, making it much more easier for the developers to update it. There's also a copy-paste functionality. Right now, ApexGuru gives a weekly insight report, but upcoming releases, we are also going to work towards the on-demand generation of it, which means the time you need the report, you can get the report. In addition to code recommendation, there is SOQL DML analysis, similar, but for SOQL and DML. You also have expensive methods. Those methods that are occupying more than 5% of your CPU time is categorized as critically expensive. Those methods that occupy between 2 to 5% of your CPU time is categorized as expensive. While we have received your feedback and we are trying to give you much more, or a double click within it, that within these methods, which is that particular code line, that is more expensive. So that particular part is also going to come up soon. In addition to that, unused classes and methods, those classes that are not called or dead or not used in your production environment is also highlighted over here. One of the highly used features. Now this is the view that you get in your full copy sandbox and production environment. Something from a code analyzer perspective is over here. It helps you identify the insights early, detect the performance pattern, easily insert the suggested code fix, and get a unified view of all the problems.
Just press space.
No worries. I think we can take that up later, the code analyzer part. But essentially, the goal over here was to highlight that within code analyzer, within VS Code or Code Builder, you have the code analyzer plugin. This particular, while we are working on the beta stage, our beta customers, how they are experiencing it is, they are downloading the code analyzer plugin, leveraging ApexGuru insights within the plugin, and then scanning the insights there itself and implementing the recommendation. That's how the developers are using it at this point of time. A bit of brief as to how ApexGuru has been important or has been used by the developers from our customers. A case study or a pilot perspective is, you can see the existing SOQL in loop code. Highly inefficient. The recommended code was given by ApexGuru, and the improvement is what you can see over here. Highly tangible. While ApexGuru went GA Feb last year, this was the improvement. These were the adoption numbers, almost about 7.5K orgs as of December last year. Almost about 40K recommendations implemented. Includes all the features, SOQL, unused, as well as expensive methods. and about 1,500 plus monthly active orgs. With your help, I think it'll go subsequently more. So requesting all of you to go through it, use it, share your feedback with us. Over to you, John.
Thank you. All right. So let's take Benjamin into the world of Colonizer 5 and beyond. Okay, Colonizer 5 has been completely rebuilt from scratch, be highly modular, and that allows us to actually deliver a lot more innovation to you guys. It's coming up next month, but it's already available as a beta today. I'll tell you how to download it. And we made Colonizer 5 the ideal tool for not only individual developers through the IDE and CLI, but also teams of developers that are working in CI/CD. First of all, it is AI powered, meaning that you can get quick fixes and code recommendations from both ApexGuru and Agentforce for developers. In the ApexGuru world, we're focusing more on performance issues that Colonizer detects in your code. With Agentforce for developers, we have a more generic approach to identify and fix issues that Colonizer detects. We're starting with around 20 PMD rules, but that list will continue expanding. Colonizer 5 is available across all of our developer experiences, so in the world of the CLI, in the world of the IDE, our GitHub action, and DevOps testing, which I'll discuss in a second. That means that you have access to over 400 rules across not only the engines that you might be familiar with in the current version of Colonizer, so Apex PMD, ESLint, Graph Engine, and the likes, but we added 2 new engines. One to scan your code for regular expressions, so very easy to find simple expressions in your code, and flow test to identify security issues in your flows. On top of that, we are providing a default kind of a crafted experience that Salesforce product managers and their teams, they work closely with us to determine what should be the default experience for a new user that has never used Colonizer before. So without actually doing any configuration, if you just run Colonizer, you're going to get the best opinionated Salesforce experience in terms of how your code should perform, what are the best practices you should be looking for, what are the anti-patterns, the severity levels associated with those anti-patterns, and so on. But for the many power users that actually use Colonizer, we give you something else. We give you a lot more control than ever before. There's a new YAML file that allows you to actually define exactly how you want to organize your rules with custom tags, with custom severity levels, easily add your custom rules. And in the future, you'll also be able to actually plug in your own engines and extend Colonizer to really suit your needs. Then you're going to get a unified output, be it in machine readable format for CI/CD or HTML for you guys to easily filter, organize stuff, and figure out how to address the many, or ideally a few problems that Colonizer will detect in your code, right? Okay, so that's Colonizer. To install it, you can do this. Just take a photo of my last slide here. So CLI, run that command, IDE, activate v5 in our extension settings. GitHub, use the v2 version. That will be the Colonizer 5 version of our GitHub action. And finally, DevOps testing, you can install Colonizer 5 as a test provider. Again, available today, GA next month. But now let's talk about DevOps testing. You might be familiar with DevOps Center. So DevOps Center is our release management tool that is deeply integrated with source control. And that allows you to manage your pipelines, manage your projects, work items, and so on, right? As you interact with DevOps Center, you're effectively firing off a whole bunch of events. So imagine I'm taking a work item from org A to org B. Well, when that happens, that's actually an ideal opportunity for you to run some automated tests. And what we've done is create a new data model as part of this DevOps testing product that we're talking about today that has a whole bunch of concepts around test suites, which are groups of tests, test executions, quality gate rules. And all of this is effectively powered by a number of different test providers. So we have a collection of Salesforce test providers that we are integrating with DevOps testing, that is the likes of Salesforce Colonizer 5, Agentforce for developers, sorry, Agentforce Testing Center, Apex Unit Tests, Scale Test, a number of partners in our ecosystem working with us. And they provide tools such as end-to-end testing, quality and code scanning, likes of AxleQ, of Copado, Panaya, Provar, Quality Clouds, and Tricentis. And that means that with DevOps testing, you're going to get the ability to create your different test plans and strategies for each one of your DevOps projects. You're going to be able to run automated tests across all of these providers and get a unified test execution report across all of them for those particular key events. And importantly, you have the ability to use quality gates to ensure that low quality changes that do not meet your standards are blocked from progressing into your pipeline and ultimately make their way to prod, where it would be expensive for you to go ahead and fix them. The DevOps testing will also be GA next month, together with Colonizer 5, and that's free for all developers that are using DevOps Center today. In addition, yesterday, if you paid attention to the keynote, we talked about our new Agentforce DX Pro Code experience that allows you to actually create agents, test agents, and interact with them through the CLI and through the IDE. It's in beta state. You can actually install it today. Just run that command right there at the bottom, and you're going to get access to your agents all through the CLI. So with that in mind, let me show you some stuff. Okay. I'm going to, first of all, come here to our, to our demo for the Colonizer integration that Mayuresh was trying to show you earlier. So let me just come back here and show you this from the start. Okay, there we go. So basically, we have a class here that we're going to be able to scan using Colonizer with ApexGuru. So there's a new command here that you'll find at the bottom. So let's find it there. Sorry, for some reason this is stopping. Let me just play it here. Okay, maybe. Yeah, that should do it now. Okay, so we will be able to show you in a second. For some reason this isn't. Okay, so there you go. Okay. At the bottom right, ApexGuru is running the analysis against this particular class, and it's going to come up with some results. There you go. See there. We can then go there and right-click on those and actually request code recommendations from ApexGuru. So we're going to go there. Yeah, there you go. ApexGuru actually provides a whole bunch of information on why that anti-pattern is there. And we can then proceed with the code and recommendation further down and get it implemented there. So let's scroll down. Just here, so we can insert the ApexGuru suggestion there. Okay, and you're going to be able to add it directly there to your file, right? So the ApexGuru suggestion has been added here, right? We're going to move on because we're running a little short of time. That I want to show you something else. So here's my code builder environment that Benjamin is working on. The first thing he's done is to enable Colonizer 5. You'll see the option here. You'll also see that we have a new option for rule selectors. Rule selectors is a new concept in Colonizer 5 that allows you to be very granular in terms of the rules that you run within Colonizer, right? What I'm doing here is basically asking Colonizer to run all of my PMD rules with severity level 2, as well as the custom rules that I've defined. And I've defined those in my new Colonizer YAML file. So if I was to scroll here, I can see a whole bunch of rules that I've defined. Some of these are standard rules, like my first few rules here that I've just changed the tag. So I made them part of my kind of custom group of rules. And further down, there's actually another rule that is not part of our standard group, which is something called prevent dummy variable names. This is also part of the custom group that I have here in my tags. And the way I've added this rule was by adding a new PMD custom rule set using an XML file that I also defined here in my file, in my YAML file, right? If I actually open the XML file here, you basically see this is an XML definition of a rule for PMD that is basically looking for variables with the name dummy. Okay, that's all good, all right? Let me keep scrolling down, and you'll see that I also have some other stuff, right? In my regex section of my YAML file, I've also added a custom rule that is looking for to-do comments in my code. If I was to go here to my weather service class that I'm working on to power some experiences that I'll show you in a second. In fact, I can hopefully kick off that process soon by just getting this here. So basically imagine that I'm working on an agent to support guest experiences at Coral Cloud Resorts. And I want to empower users to look at weather tomorrow. Now, through Agentforce DX, I can actually interact with agents from the CLI as you see there. So here's the agent interacting with me. I can ask it, what is the weather like for Coral Cloud Resorts tomorrow? And the agent will actually process my response, using this Apex class as an action, and ultimately it will reach out to an API, and if all goes well, it will actually provide the temperatures that you see there for tomorrow, right? And that's all good, seems to be working fine, but I want to actually ensure that my code still follows best practices, and therefore I scan it with Code Analyzer. Scan my code, I start the process, Code Analyzer will run, and it will identify some problems in my code. That takes a few seconds, and once that is done, let's see here. All right, so actually, I think we were having some technical glitches earlier, and it might be impacting our Code Analyzer scans as well, right? But let me just walk you through how that would actually work. So Code Analyzer will detect a few problems here. First, through our PMD custom rule, it will detect this variable named dummy. It will also detect through our regex rule this to-do keyword here, right? And finally, it will detect this particular problem around this try-catch exception that happens to have an empty catch block, right? And this one is something that I can actually fix with the Agentforce integration with the Code Analyzer, and I'll show you that right here. Basically, I would right-click on that violation. I would have the option to fix it with Agentforce. I click on that, and what happens is that Agentforce will then provide me a recommendation to fix that particular code and improve it. It gives me a whole bunch of debug options that I can add here. I actually like that idea of having more information about that exception that can be triggered when I'm calling out to that weather API. So I'm going to go ahead and just accept it here and be done with it. And that will ultimately fix all the problems here in my code. All right, so that's how Code Analyzer is kind of working today. One thing that I will share very, very quickly is that if you were to go to DevOps Center and ultimately go to our DevOps testing product, you can look at Code Analyzer results also directly from within DevOps testing itself. So if I was looking here at my last test execution, not only across Code Analyzer, but a whole bunch of different test providers like Copilot Robotic Testing and also Agentforce Testing Center itself, I would be able to click here and see the many results that Code Analyzer provided to my results. And this takes a few seconds to load. I might not have time to just, oh, there we go. We just show them here, all the stuff visible right there from within the DevOps testing UI. Again, all of this GA next month. So let me just wrap up the session here with some more information, right? So Benjamin has a whole bunch of tools now at his disposal, right? And this will help him and his team be much faster and much more productive at writing better code. We talked about Code Builder, we talked about Agentforce for Developers, ApexGuru Insights, integrations for Agentforce Developers, and Insights in Code Analyzer 5, our new code scanning product. DevOps testing, again, going GA next month, and we touched very lightly on Agentforce TDX Pro Code to interact with our agent. Our roadmap is quite packed with a whole bunch of things. We looked at test case generation earlier, DevOps testing going GA, Code Analyzer quick fixes. ApexGuru is going to continue improving with impact metrics coming in summer. Our ApexGuru integration also hitting beta, new anti-patterns for ApexGuru, and we are also moving our Agentforce for Developers integration to be much more supportive of our overall app dev strategy to effectively use agents to help you create entire apps containing agents. Right? That means stuff like requirements to code, being able to translate those requirements into actionable pieces of Apex that are part of your app. We will ultimately, as we go closer to Dreamforce, have the ability to run LWC quick fixes in Code Analyzer as well, and we're going to have even better capabilities within Agentforce for Developers itself around LWC with RAG, and other capabilities like LWC with the local preview as well coming to the fold. And with that, let me give you this QR code. Please take a photo of this one, because this one actually has a whole bunch of interesting resources that you guys should be looking at. I don't think we're going to have a lot of time for questions, but feel free to just catch us after we exit here. And with that, let me thank you for your time today. I hope this was useful and informative. We know there were a couple of technical issues there, but don't worry, everything is actually working. You'll be able to test things out yourself once you download stuff into your laptops. And a link for us to get more feedback from you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything.